Welcome to Math Plus, where math makes sense. In this video, I'm introducing the clock, and I'm going to teach you as the parent or the teacher or as the adult that's working with the child how to introduce the clock. And this can be introduced at any time. We're doing an analog clock. That's when your hands are on the clock. Everybody needs to learn that. We do have digital time, but what happens if the battery runs out? What happens if our phones don't work? And there is a clock up on the wall and they don't know how to tell time. So that is the reason for this. Now, typically, we would like our child to have number recognition 1 through 12, but you can teach number recognition at the same time that you're teaching the clock. Yes, we're going to learn time and we're going to use the analog clock, a clock that has hands. I know we live in a digital world. Kids can just look at your phone, look anywhere, and they can see what time it is. But do they really understand what that means? Even if your child's older and they can tell you the time and they know that certain times are in the afternoon or the morning, but do they really know that there's 60 minutes in an hour and how fast those hands are moving around the clock? So that's why we're going to teach time using a clock. It can be introduced at any age, and I'll show you how. If you have an older student, obviously they're going to understand things quickly. They may not have to do the little rhymes like you see here. They may not need to construct a clock. And that's what we're going to do today to introduce the clock is we're going to actually make a clock. And you can choose how you want to do that. I highly recommend if you have that young child that loves to sing and learn nursery rhymes, get this rhyme into their head. They have no idea what it means, but it's going to be in there. And when they start seeing the clock and it all comes together, they have that rhyme. It's kind of like sending them to Sunday school. They learn all those different verses and they're just on their heart. And later in life, they go, oh, I remember that. Now I know what it means. It's kind of the same thing. This is how easy it is to make a clock. You can just get a paper plate, cut out some papers, paper numbers, and get a fastener in the middle. You can make this clock any way you want. The reason I showed this clock first, though, typically, a great time to introduce the numbers on a clock is when your children are learning number recognition. And what I would do is get a little piece of Velcro and put them behind these numbers. And as your child's learning the numbers, you can also teach them the placement on the clock. So you're kind of doing two things at once. If you have an older child and they already know their numbers, then you can do it this simply. You can just write those numbers on there, get her done, small hand, big hand. But what we're doing first is just getting them to understand that there is a clock that has hands. It's called an analog clock, and there are 12 hours on it, and it will also measure minutes. Again, just introduce the clock and what it does for us. I'm going to give you some other ideas on what you can do with this clock as you're teaching. Now, obviously, when we first make the clock, we're not going to put all these details, but this is a way that you can put the minutes on the clock, and the child can see that minute hand later when you start to teach that there's 5 minutes in between. But if they have trouble with that, put those numbers out there on the edges and let them see it, and eventually you want them to tell time without. These are just some ideas as you go along. You'll remember you might need to come back. Here's another way if you have a really creative child and they love to make things. This way you can make it into a flower and then put those minutes in between. I love this idea. When you get to the point, you'll see this in the progression, when you start talking about o'clock, half past, quarter after, quarter till, then the child can you can go ahead and draw those lines and show where those are. Quarter till is on the 9, quarter after, the big hand's on the 3. Again, this is just as we go forward, you can see some ideas to help your child if they really struggle with some of these concepts. I love this little idea here. It's called the sunny clock and the dark nighttime clock, but it's also teaching the child AM and PM. Obviously, all of PM isn't at night and all of AM isn't during the day, but it does let them see that hand has to go around the clock 2 times, and we have AM and PM. This is definitely for your child that needs to see it, needs to feel it, and they would want to make this and understand that better. Then for your very artistic children or even yourself, if you'd love to make your clock cute, you have the cat, you can make all kinds of different things. Get into this as much as you want, but it can be as simple as the first 2 that I showed you. Google it. You'll get tons of ideas. Look at this. I just Googled making clocks, and you can do all kinds of things. So have fun with it. And you do you, whatever works for you. You don't have to get this fancy, but I know some of you enjoy that, and so definitely do that. Have fun making the clock and getting familiar with the clock. You can point them out in different stores and different houses and on watches and things like that. And now we're going to dig in and start understanding what exactly does all of this mean.